a warm welcome to the Citizens Chat Show. We continue with our special edition for this festive season 2025 as we count down to the end of the year. And today we are still looking at Uganda Decides, but we're looking at the projections, possibilities, and the road to 2026. My name is Judith Atim. I'm your host. I'm glad to have you join us. And in the studio, I am also happy to be joined by my distinguished panelists. We've shifted things a little bit in here. As you can see from my immediate left today, I have Mr. Joseph Ocheno, political commentator and UBC ideologue. Good afternoon, Joseph.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here. And I've been trying to pray for this seat.
For a very long time.
Got it.
Well earned. You've worked so hard for it. You've earned it. Thank you, Joseph. We also have Dr. Sarah Birete, Executive Director, Center for Constitutional Governance. A warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers. Hope you're enjoying the festive season.
Yes, it is a festive season, and if you're not enjoying it, please find a way of making it merry. And we are also happy to be joined by Mr. Charles Kazoba, Executive Director, Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. Charles, good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. And of course, I'm glad to be here. And I wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy New Year 2026. Yes.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Robert Sempala, Executive Director, Human Rights Network for Journalists. Most welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you, Judith, for having me, and I'm happy to meet the distinguished panelists here. I'm happy to be back.
Yes. Well, so on January 15th, 2026, that's not news to you. You already know what will be happening. Ugandans will be going to the polls to elect their next leaders. And this is a transition that spans from the presidency all the way to parliamentary representatives. It's a landmark date that will follow a year that has been dominated by intense political discourse, rigorous party primaries, and nationwide electoral preparations throughout 2025. And as the campaign posters fade and the debates sharpen, the country stands at a pivotal moment in its democratic journey. Of course, the air is very thick with anticipation. For many, this election is about continuity and stability. For others, it represents a yearning for fundamental change and new perspectives in governance. On today's edition of the show, we're looking ahead to 2026. We're not just discussing the dates and candidates, we're mapping out the projections and possibilities that will shape our nation. We'll explore a range of issues, including the youth factor. How will the young people, the largest demographic in the country, influence the final tally? What does the projected leadership mean, the leadership changes rather, mean for issues like inflation, issues that are dear to you, things that affect your pocket, inflation, job opportunities, and the cost of living? Shall we see any changes in these fronts? And also, how is the digital space or social media shaping public opinion and the fight against misinformation in the last stretch as we count down to D-Day? And also, how shall we have a stable environment for every citizen to exercise their constitutional right? Beyond the ballot box, what does 2026 look like for the average Ugandan? Gentlemen, lady, that's our focus, starting with you, Joseph. I'm sure there's quite a lot, but what comes to your mind if you close your eyes for just a moment and imagine what 2026 looks like, right from January 15th and beyond?
I'll just tell you that as an experienced panelist and someone in the media, you'd imagine that it's very easy to be interviewed. I'm telling the young guys looking and watching, and particularly young guys in the media. But it's actually usually not very easy. And so you sometimes get, as Robert might know, it can get very squeezy. And because I've been a panelist here for a very long time, and always to the other extreme end, I've really not been this very close, although I was enjoying it. So starting fast is not usually very easy, but I'm delighted. But number two, talking young people, I was 18 in 1985. In 1980 when elections took place. And I can tell you that I was very excited. And because I was very excited knowing that it was a post-Amin election, you're asking me my feelings, and I was thinking through. I don't know how many 18-year-olds. I don't know how many 19-year-olds. I don't know how many 20-year-olds. In fact, I don't know how many of the young people you're talking about are as anxious, looking forward, and as resolved as I was then. I can tell you guys that in 1980, at least for me and my circles of guys from Miri and second schools and back in Agungera, we really, really madly wanted to go to the polls. I couldn't wait to dress very smartly and walk to Mahanga Primary School polling center at a primary school, and I voted.
That was your first time.
My first time voting. And I can tell you it was more than Christmas for me. I was completely committed to the idea that was a dawn of a new era for me, with huge hopes and expectations. Regardless of whatever else happened, we can talk about it. If only the young people of today could pick on the energy that we had at the time, we would have an extremely interesting 2026. 1980, it was 9 years of Idi Amin. We had seen the war, we had seen the battles, we had seen also the campaigns. We had been massively motivated by candidate Museveni, candidate Semogera, and candidate Robote. This is 40 years of candidate Museveni. We've also been seeing other candidates play. Candidate Semogera taunted candidate Museveni in 1995, but it was a monolithic process. Candidate Besigye taunted Comrade Museveni in 2001 and then subsequent elections. You can then move forward beyond candidate Besigye, key candidates. You could say candidate Kalula Bote, but she was just the woman candidate of an old political party, whatever kind of nuances. And candidate Chagulanyi, the other elections and these elections. Surely young Ugandans, after 40 years of a continuous one person, map that side by side with 9 years of Idi Amin, regardless of the detail. Young Ugandans have an absolute responsibility, an absolute right to get sufficiently excited. And if they did, we would possibly see a very different Uganda. But that's said also quickly as a message to young Ugandans. In other words, if they did, they would really be giving me a major Christmas and early year staff. But also, I was looking through a video that came in the other day, Sarah, and although I am a permanent spokesperson for Old Milton about the idea, actually, and so therefore defending 1980 generations as I can, there's a clip that did the rounds last week in which I saw, and Robert, you'll help us with this, where Paul Mwanga, as chairman of the Electoral Commission, was addressing the international media and was talking about elections, including a confirmation that apparently the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of 1980 was confirmed. It was a consultative process with all the then four political parties, CP, DP.
Who was the chairman?
The name goes off my head, but yeah, I can confirm that, but I don't remember the name deliberately. But it was a consultative process with all the then four political parties. I'm looking at this fast forward to the discussion at the time. I don't want to go into the details then, and where we are now with the commission. You know, it is possible for these elections, 2026, amidst the torture, amidst the terror that we saw in 2021, and the torture and terror we've seen thus far, for really us as Ugandans turn around ourselves and say no to torture, no to terror, yes to polity of ideas, and yes to a commitment to a fundamental change through the ballot. It's Christmas, it's just a few weeks to elections. It hasn't really been particularly exciting with the big things that have taken place. I don't know, friends have been asking me, why the torture? I think even the other night I was with some friends, and some people think, even as a chair of UPC, from the position that I have an idea, Sarah, why is it all of a sudden this process so torturous? Why are the security services treating opposition, particularly NUP guys, like this? And regardless of the arguments that the governing side and the security services refer and vent on NUP that as a difficult guys, I keep on asking, what really is it that could justify some of these extremes? Completely unacceptable. I hope that we're able to cross past Christmas because the season and that people really, really genuinely review and reflect in their emotions, and that the next few weeks to the elections takes place, and whatever the outcome is one in which it's relatively free and fair. I say relative because already too late for it to be considered free and fair elections. But whatever happens, I hope that we shall have an outcome that enables us to have a process of a genuine transition.
Thank you. Dr. Sarah Virete, what do you imagine or foresee or predict that 2026 will bring, especially in the political front?
Well, I don't know whether the election, I don't have the optimism that my friend here has of relative free and fair elections, because we have a wave of violence from Gulu, Fort Poto, Mbarara was a curtain raiser, and Churuhura. So you have the sticks moving from Churuhura to Gulu. I don't know who was in charge of transportation. And then the blocking of roads even yesterday, as Honorable Chagrin started the Eastern campaign, Soloti Kumi, then he's blocked. I don't know whether the elections can get better or give Ugandans, something good to look forward to. Amidst this are the illegal pronouncements started by the army. Then 2 weeks after the army failing to pass the message, then the chair electoral commission picks an illegal order and starts reading the illegal riot act to Ugandan voters. Then after another 2 weeks, the CDF is reading an illegal riot act. And the attempt to defend the same by the Attorney General in Parliament the other day. First of all, I think for me, what really made me lose hope was to have a chair, a caliber of a constitutional court judge, read the electoral laws upside down, threaten and intimidate Ugandans. In addition to the failure to manage the electoral campaign and guarantee a free campaign season, where the contenders for the public offices are able to impart their campaign messages to voters freely, and voters are able to receive these messages freely and make an informed choice as to who should govern them. You fail in this supervision, you read an illegal riot act to Ugandans. So my prediction is that in the campaign season, because the citizens will have relaxed into the festivities and holidays, we are likely to see abductions here and there of the opposition supporters, of media, because there will be little attention. We saw the abductions last week of the lady with her child,
Daughter.
of the priest. Broad daylight abductions by the military. Both culprits were confirmed to be at the former CMI. I don't know the new name, but it doesn't change anything. If the practice was different, we would pick the new name. So I think during the holidays, many people are likely to go missing. And then by the time people get back to active work life, you find that a number is missing. And from the festive seasons, we are going into, we will just have less than 2 weeks, I think, from the festive seasons, because the festive seasons end around 3rd or 4th. Then you have campaigns stopping on 12th. So you have 1 week and a few days of campaigns that are also likely to be full of drama. The president is entering campaigns in Uganda region, the most hotly contested region, followed by Busoga as the hotspot regions. And a few things are likely to happen. A lot of money has been sent in advance. I can speak of 3 billion for Kawempe. You can imagine, just to prepare for the president's campaign. Kawempe, 3 billion. So if you look at every constituency, 3 billion, 3 billion, how much is that? How many constituencies are in Buganda? That's the advance team. It's not all the budget. So how much money does the president use in this election? And that takes me to my third point, which is extreme commercialization of politics. So I know that money is scarce in the pockets of us, Muntu, the ordinary people, because it's all aimed at campaigns, including state funding. I'm sure budgets are being diverted because that's what causes less saturation of money in the hands of the people. The spending behaviors of government agencies as the biggest spender have changed. And this money is all concentrated in campaigns. If you look at the people who are on the campaign trail, those who are not in NRM are struggling. I don't know whether NRM campaigns have money. I haven't bothered to check. And then you have money around the presidential campaigns, including expensive travel countrywide and other facilities, and heavy deployment of security, including the army that is now blocking highways. And in that blockage of highways, a lot of traders are blocked with goods. In Fort Portal, they slept on the road. When you block transit, transit goods, even an hour is too expensive on the road. We saw the losses made during COVID. But because of campaigns, the army is blocking highways, blocking regional transit goods. That's a diversion in trade. You cause traders losses. Because when somebody is transporting, for example, goods from Mombasa through Kampala to Kigali, there is a time schedule you expect beyond which you start incurring costs, losses. Plus the market. The market you have prepared for these goods, people are likely to purchase from other people. So the heavy cost to the traders, because the army is blocking highways and blocking the leading opposition contender, not to freely campaign and access voters, and the silence from Electoral Commission. I think their last statement was on Guru, and maybe they have given up. So with this background, you look at 15 as a day that will be shrouded in darker clouds. We don't know whether, and this goes with the numbers as I conclude, Judith, the numbers of voters. When you look at the electoral map, the voters in Kampala and Wakso, if they turn up, and I want to invite people to turn up and exercise their sovereign rights. If they turn up and vote, Kampala and Wakso alone can be an equalizer to Western Uganda. That creates panic. Because somebody wins resoundingly Kampala and Wakso. Another candidate wins Western Uganda. You are at zero. then you start sharing the other votes. And when you look at the next, because those are above 1 million votes in the two districts,
Yeah.
the next biggest voting groups are in Wakso, Chegera, Mpiji. Another big vote is in Kasese. Those are 300 and above. So you find Mukono, Mpiji, Chegera, and other districts in Western, in Central. 200,000, you go on Western Uganda, you have Mtungamo. The others are concentrated in other areas. The rest of the districts, there are even districts like Kabong with 18,000 voters. So you find that the numbers alone could be the reason some camps are panicking and using violence. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I was actually looking for that breakdown of the registered voters per district, which is somewhere. Charles, what are the possibilities and your projections as we head to 2026?
I'm looking at 2026 as a year. From what has been happening or what is happening on the ground, the opposition increasing numbers in Western Uganda, going by of course, the rallies we are witnessing, but also, I think 2 years ago, I had predicted this because of the loss of the sources of income for people in Chigezi, people in Toro, the area of tea. We are now increasingly seeing growing crowds of young people associated with opposition. So the focus is not just on Uganda alone, because now the opposition is infiltrating the strongholds of the ruling government. We are likely to see a more polarized country, radicalized youth, and hence the response from the state agencies will be worse than what we are witnessing. The abductions might even extend to Western Uganda. What we've been seeing here will extend to those areas. And that means the space for freedoms is going to be narrow in 2026. Illegal detentions will increase. So we are going to see a more militaristic approach towards politics in 2026. But also we are likely to see new players in charge of governance because of the old age of the president. I think we shall be seeing the president becoming more ceremonial and leaving serious decision making to other people, whom of course we shall determine as we move. And those people that are going to be in charge of decision making are likely to be more radical and intolerant to dissent. That is why we are most likely going to see a polarized country, which will even extend beyond tribal sentiments. So it will not be, these are ours, those are theirs. It will be a class-based polarization. It is the haves versus the have-nots. So you have a bigger group of youth who are unable now to be compromised by PDM because that money is not going to them. It is being stolen. Even if it went to them, it is a drop in the sea. It can't help. These are unemployed people. And there is no concrete solution to assist, to get them into the employment bracket. So if the country goes by that, I also see a resumption of protests and riots that could be triggered by those conditions, but may not even be spearheaded by political parties, because the population is growingly getting disgruntled against parties. They don't seem to see solutions. So there's a likelihood that citizens will form movements and respond to these conditions in the form of riots. And if we are not careful, they could actually lead the parties instead of the other way around. So how will that affect, of course, the political players? It means that Kyagulanyi, Robert Kyagulanyi and NUP, who have not embraced protests, could have no alternative than to respond to the popular demand and therefore get involved in protests, especially if the results from these elections show that NUP has resoundingly lost support. They may not in real terms have lost, but the results can show that they have lost support. And of course, by that affects public opinion. So if, for instance, Kyagulanyi finds himself with less than 20%, because we are seeing already some window dressing. You hear sentiments show that NRM will win by 70%, 80%. Some are even demanding 90%. So don't be surprised if those are the figures that come out of elections. And they may not be joining, of course, but they affect public opinion. And in that scenario, for NUP and Kyagulanyi to regain their political position, they'll have to do the Dr. Besigye strategy. They have to respond to demands for protests, because that now will be the only way to counter the militaristic approach in quelling dissent by state agencies. So 2026, I don't see the public, I don't see government spending on constructive areas. They will rather spend on more on patronage system. They will spend more on security to be able to maneuver through that, to maneuver through those conditions. So we cannot expect any meaningful development projects in 2026 until the situation has calmed down. But if it persists, and looking at what happened in Tanzania recently, which most of us did not expect, then for Uganda's case, it can even be worse, because when you are interacting with people, I always interact with the people down there. I go to garages, I even share commando with people, because I need to feel the sentiments and prepare myself as an individual if it means the running may begin early enough. So just recently, some young people were telling me, for them, 2026 is a done deal. That is when they are sorting out Museveni. And they are so convinced that that is his end. You leave alone what Chagolanyi is saying on rallies. These are sentiments from the young people. They are very, very convinced that Museveni is ending on 15th January. So I asked them, what about parliament? Because you may not have the numbers in the parliament. They asked me, did Museveni come with MPs? He came alone. Doesn't he have parliament? So, how do you handle such a group? How do you persuade them that you have one minus stealing their votes? They are monitoring the rallies. They see the reaction from other regions all over the country. So persuading these young people that President Museveni has won, like I've told you, let's say he has won with more than 70%, is going to cause problems for this country. So it will not be a matter that you can just walk over. 2026 is going to be a much more serious year.
Thank you, Charles. Robert, over to you.
Thank you very much. I am a voter. I cast my votes from within Wakiso district. And last time I was told our votes didn't count. Kampala and Wakiso. This time round, I will be very interested in seeing if the very votes he's talking about, that Sarah talked about, that might be the equalizer, come through and are counted. I'm looking forward to seeing if it's the vote that counts or the one who counts the vote that counts or that matters in this particular situation. I think that it will be an election that has stirred up many young people. We've seen them turn out at rallies for various candidates. They will equally be very eager to see if their votes count. If
From
anyone
20 meters away.
from 20 meters away, and I'm sure that they will be keeping a very watchful eye, like the mother hen keeps over the chicken against the eagles that are hovering around to snatch away one by one. And if they're around, they make some noise and the eagle runs away. So I'm sure they're going to keep around, and it's going to be a very huge contestation between the security and the young people, let alone the voters. This thing of keeping away from the polling stations, I'm sure it's going to be defied by every measure because of what has happened since the army, let alone the EC, the CDF, and later countered by the Attorney General, who says, no, okay, maybe for him says 100 meters or something like it, but says it's prudent that they keep around. So all that contestation.
There's no grounds for them to keep away.
Yes. This argument that some spaces are too limited, too small for everyone to keep around, people will find their own spaces to keep.
But
within.
why would Byabakama be bothered about the spaces?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Maybe he
In
used
my
to.
Rock Hill,
Maybe-
in my Rock Hill in Agongera, my police station, there's a huge amount of space.
Yes, maybe
Yes.
he used to harvest.
Context
Maybe he
matters.
used to harvest grasshoppers and so things that it's easier to harvest them, like it might be with the people. You know, also our background shape sometimes things that we do always say that harvesting people like grasshoppers might be an easy feat, but I don't see that becoming the easiest. I also think that there's going to equally be a heavy deployment in the run up to elections, but also beyond elections. On the day the results will be announced, you see a return of all tribes of security forces trying to man security. And that obviously will have its own connotations on how people react to the results. Then I don't know if it's going to be a repeat, how it is that results from far to reach areas come in faster and before the ones that are within the areas. I have never understood the dynamics around the others being relayed faster than the ones that are from within. Maybe this time around will be explained. But also, the internet certainly will make it very hard for us to know how things trickle through to the very tally center. So we might be looking up to a particular media house to give us maybe results, or media houses this time around, because people are planning in time. Prefer to those that are planning to work without internet but be able to access or transmit information. Because you're picking a stone and the ego is watching you. It knows you're going to slow it at it, so to learn how to run away. Also, we have a situation where we're starting to learn how the electronic machines will play out in voting, starting with the MPs for their education. And then there are so many questions that were asked, and I do not know if we're going to find all the answers. Saying there's a standby machine. If this one dies, there is a power bank for each of them in case this one dies, runs out of battery. You see an attempt at making preparations, which for me are coming at the very tail end. Around this time, we would well be aware of what to expect.
works and what doesn't work.
Certainly, would have sampled things out to know if they're going to work or not. So we have a bit of darkness roaming around at the tail end of a process. And we will hope that all these will be worked upon towards the end to make it extremely clear for us to know what to expect. On the part of the media, I foresee a lot of administrative sanctions coming through in regards to not announcing results. Yeah, even when you get them from the polling stations, it's a privilege of the Electoral Commission to announce them.
Mm.
I saw in the previous campaigns and elections, 2 media houses in Busoga being closed down for relaying exactly what was happening at a polling station. I do not know what crime they committed. And the journalists that survived had to jump over the walls, the perimeter walls of their media house to escape. And their only crime was to put a reporter at the police station and they would relay things live as they counted, which I think for me is very,
Yeah.
It's
very
not like they created their own
They didn't
separate
create,
center. They
they're
were
trying-
there.
exactly creating transparency
Mhm.
and for their audiences to know that at this polling station, things are moving on normally. If you lose um, respectfully because the process has been, transparent. But for some reason, security wanted opaqueness over those elections and the media house was closed down. So I don't know if it's going to be the same this time around, where media houses, journalists are going to be trampled upon. Yet they are a key pillar in an election because they reach near and far for their wider audiences. So would assume that the Electoral Commission appreciates that role as well. So it would press the media way above, any impediments for them to be able to work. It's extremely important that people keep abreast with what is happening in an election. That eases suspicion, as to what transpired. How could ABCD win over this one? So I even do not see where in our election laws it must be a privilege and a preserve of the Electoral Commission to announce that Joseph Otieno has won here. If I have tallied all my polling stations in that electoral area for Joseph Otieno, and I know that he's ranking first, unless somebody is going to change things in the course of transmission of results to the returning officer, that's why we should be very concerned. But if you know that what has happened around is what the returning officer is going to relate to the public and so make announcements, I don't see where the tensions should, crop up from, as it is previously been. The other is about, of course, we haven't seen the leading opposition party in the previous elections take to violent protests. Its leader, who is actually Bobby Wine, would prevail over his fans or supporters. Say, keep calm, don't do this. Joseph hinted on, and Charles, on the possibility of an explosion in case the leader is not this time contented with the results. But as for me, I feel it's not a done deal yet. Yeah, many people think that the winner is already known. Going by the crowds, the winner is not known. At least as far as I am concerned, because I see, like my colleagues have said, that the political opposition is gaining grounds not only in particular areas but across the country. And the incumbent is putting up a very fierce fight to retain the same grounds. So going by that, it's a race of Arsenal Manchester City. Yeah, Arsenal is leading every game, they're winning every game, but Manchester City is chasing so fast. And it's been a horse's race for the last 3 tournaments, where Arsenal tends to lead, and then at the tail end, Manchester or Liverpool will come and take it. So in here, I see that happening. So I don't think that people should be demoralized at any one point to think that it's a done deal, lest they will not be turning out for their candidates. So it is incumbent upon the Electoral Commission to restore hope and trust in the electorate, so that, okay, it's until the vote is out that we'll know who is winning. Going by certain statements, you would think that the Electoral Commission has an idea or a feeling that the incumbent might win, going by what is happening, trickling through. But I think that for me is very detrimental to an electoral process, where you have it that the others are as weak and equal to losers. So finally, for me, this has been a very explosive campaign. every ward has given it its best. Even the candidates that came in, and we didn't expect them to have, that credible ground. They really have performed, for me, to my expectations. Much as, of course, two giants that are really seemingly taking it. But Aston Villa may not take the lead at some point, but they might injure Arsenal in the course of his pursuit for a trophy. So you do not underestimate any of the candidates.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible at this rate, and it's healthy for our democracy. Only that, of course, we have not seen the security forces realize that it's not their election, it's not their campaign, it is a civic activity. They still take center stages of controlling it. And sometimes I look at the police and wonder how it's going to explain it after elections, that this came into our heads, and this is why you are battling people. This is why we coupled up with the army to do heinous crimes against the voters. I think it's going to be a huge task for them to harmonize relations with the citizens after all that beating, after the violence and so much that is happening. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So just for the sake of just giving you the numbers, because I know Dr. Sarah was talking about the numbers in Wakiso and Kampala. So the EC tells us that they have approximately 21.6 million registered Ugandan voters. And the statistics for Wakiso is that Wakiso has 1,154,857 voters. And Kampala has about 1,280,409 voters. So when you combine that, you're having about 2.3, 2.4 million voters in just these two districts, give or take. And when you compare this to other districts, let's say districts that have reasonably bigger numbers, say 200,000 voters or so, that would be about 10 districts. And if you go to smaller districts that have maybe 28,000, 30,000 or so, you're looking at perhaps Kampala and Wakiso alone, the number of voters here representing about 20 other districts with lower numbers. So I just needed to give you this context. Now,
actually possible up to 30.
Yes, yeah, depending on, because the numbers are really quite varied. Like Saros, there are districts that have maybe 18,000 voters, and others have up to 200,000 or 300,000. So it depends. Coming to, well, I see we also have our other guest in the room. We'll just give him a few minutes to settle in, and then you'll join us a little later. I'll let you know who is joining us. But coming to the discussion of still the numbers, I know 2026 for a lot of analysts and observers, it's a pivotal time because we have, let's say, the incumbent, Yoweri Museveni. If he's given another mandate, he'll have 5 years within which he'll be 86 years of age. And clearly, nature is against him, okay? He is getting frail, he's getting older. There are things he will not be able to do. The things he can do at 80 plus are certainly not the things he was able to do in his 40s or 50s at the prime of his life. And that also brings to mind the question of, what is the transition going to look like? How is it going to be managed? Will the next 5 years be the time during which we see this transition? What does it mean? How is it going to be? Is it going to be peaceful? Is it going to be violent? Do we know who will actually take power after the president? I just need us to just have this conversation because I know beyond it's 2026 we're talking about, but beyond 2026 sets the precedent for so many other things that it's a chain reaction of so many things that will happen in our political and democratic space as a country. Joseph.
So 2026, you're saying candidate Museveni will be 86?
No. He'll be 82. He's 81 now. That is what we're told.
All right.
Okay, officially he's 81.
So 2020.
So 2031. Yes, that makes him 86
so
by
86.
then. Yes.
Okay, and then he came to power in 1986. And most of the people going to vote will not have been born in 1986.
Absolutely.
Wow, these days and ages. No wonder, I don't know whether it was in this program earlier that somebody was talking about the fact that Mr. Museveni really conquered Kampala from his fellow other militias, the Okellos and others, on 25th of January, but he decided to make sure that it is 26 because he doesn't want to repeat. So 86 and 1986, there you go. Look, Robert was being very interesting. You know, it is young Tony Blair, fantastic young guy. I was supporting him and as a friend, or rather, a colleague in the party. And he was saying the push elections, that it's not over
Until it's over.
until it's over. Every vote counts. So, when I was talking youth here, I am completely convinced that if a critical majority of young people in this country got up with the motivation that I had in 1986, rather 1980, there is absolutely no reason why we do not have this election as a critical election. Number two, therefore, to link that, Robert and Charles, you know, it's generally truly the case that I was actually suggesting that this election can also be too close to call. And maybe actually it's one of the reasons why there is panic. And maybe that's one of the reasons why some of our friends in various other agencies are playing the numbers. Because I think it was Robert. These rallies numbers are very interesting. That it's very difficult to tell, rather very difficult to dismiss the fact that people are turning up in these elections, in these election campaigns, and that those people are turning up just to go and watch some musician, to watch his, like sometimes some people want to maybe to watch his hair when he was still playing music, and some people even say ganja, and I'm saying this without prejudice, you know. I do not think it's about going to watch Chagulanyi and going to watch this former army general. People are going there for political reasons. So if Ugandans engaged between today, have Christmas, and particularly those ones who claim to be Christians, you know, invoke their spiritual ends and consider the future of their children and go ahead and participate in this election freely, openly, and without let or hindrance, particularly without fear, there is no reason why we do not have a very interesting election outcome post the 15th of January. But whatever happens, it is also my boring thing to you that I think after 40 years, I think after the experiences post 1980, and I think after the experience post 1986, 85, 86, and really with the violence that we saw in 2021, including the points being raised by my friend James here on the question, Charles, sorry, on the question of identity that we're discussing it today. Charles, these young people who are saying they're prepared to take it on, there is something about identity that I'm going to use to emphasize, and I said in this program, sir, after the last election, Sarah and I were traumatized in various spaces, just like many other people in different ways. But we had two very specific incidents. Robert, a Muhima friend of mine, close friend of mine, rang me and told me, Joseph, I'm in Kampala. And the guy told me, what are you still doing here? I think I've ever told this thing on live program. I think it's the second time I need to say this. What are you still doing here? This guy had narrowly missed being lynched at a particular corner of Kampala. And I will say this and some, yes, because of some of the things that was happening down there, and partly because of associations, and partly because of what was happening, particularly to Chagulanyi people. And you fellow Ugandans, this guy, I know him. In fact, I've not really known him for a long time. I hadn't known him for a very long time. Very organized, religious guy, committed guy, but an absolute total Ugandan nationalist. An absolute total Ugandan nationalist. Completely not associated with regime privilege, any regime privilege at all. And so this guy was telling me that because I'm known as an oppositionist person, I'm at risk. imagine him because of association by identity. So you guys, this country belongs to us, all of us. And everybody in this country is at risk. So it's absolutely the responsibility of the people in power and authority to review themselves and examine their conscience and say, no, whatever's happened up to and including Christmas, that let the next 1 week leading to this process be one in which whatever the outcome, there is a possibility that an election outcome comes, one in which, and Robert is a journalist, and he's really saying from that perspective, there is this thing called perception in politics, you know, and followed public opinion, I've followed elections elsewhere and many things. Public opinion and public perception. Merely the idea, by the UPC suffered it, you know, in 1980, merely because of the perception that we were favored, that election was rigged, with the propaganda of NRA and their dubious imperialist friends. We're still suffering today. So merely the perception that there is a particular category being favored, a particular grouping being favored, regardless of the outcome, and I think that's what my two brethren and colleagues were trying to say, regardless of whatever it is, if it is viewed in that way, with the critical number of young people in this country could go in any whatever direction. So I think it's a responsible leadership.
Joseph,
And those of us as political leaders. Yes, sir.
Just 2 weeks ago, like I told you, I like moving, associating with those people down there because you hear their first
sentiments, yes.
So I was in Owino, and I was moving in that Kavuyo. Then I heard a woman say, Babo, Babo, Babo.
Hey, they are the ones. It's them.
So I asked myself,
oh no,
we are in peaceful times.
Yes.
What about when we are in chaotic times? What is likely going to happen? You understand? So what he says is right. A certain section of people are being categorized as the oppressors by just your physical appearance, even though you are not getting any privileges from government. And it's
you may not even be associated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to
just
conclude,
wind up and then we take a break.
Yes. Interestingly, actually, one of my nieces, she's fantastically beautiful. But I keep on joking about how I'll not mention her name, a top executive in her own right. You know, she actually can pass for him or for a Westerner, except she's dark, you know, publicly. But, you know, father, mother, my father and mother and grand jobs. So, you know, some of the things, it can be that simplistic. But all we're saying, you know, really is that there is political responsibility on political leadership in political parties. So the burden of responsibility lies with Comrade Museveni. You know, I know you don't bother about your legacy, allegedly, but I think you better begin to review on behalf of all of us. And number two, Comrade Robert Chagulanyi, because you're really the lead front runner. How you conduct yourself and the messaging that Robert is talking about is extremely important. And those of us, political party leaders, including those of us in UK, in UPC, whose positions have been denied thanks to NRA kind of stuff, all political leaders and all leaders in public spaces, our languages, our postures, our messaging, and our responsibilities to make sure that whatever happens, it does not really take us off the cliff, because we're really closing down there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joseph. Let us take a break, and then when we return, we continue with our conversation on the projections, possibilities, and the road to 2026 as Uganda decides. And we'll also be welcoming our other guests who will be joining us, and I'll be letting you know who it is. That's after the break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and we're glad that you're still with us here on the Citizens Chat Show as we continue with our conversation on the projections, possibilities, and the road to 2026. And I am happy to introduce our other guest, Honorable Henry Banyanzachi, senior citizen and politician. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Where is he from?
How are you, viewers?
You want him to account for
Yes.
I'm from Uganda.
that? Well, thank you. So we are continuing with our conversation. Honorable, I think I'll also start with you. The same question. Looking at where we're going into the coming elections, what would be your projections? What do you think are some of the possibilities that we might have to confront or deal with as a country next year?
First of all, let me wish Ugandans a happy and prosperous 2026. And the projection then in 1926.
In 2026, not 1926.
2026. The projection is that we pray that it becomes a peaceful year, but it is conditional. Because what we have seen, how this year is ending, it is ending, this year, 2025 is ending with a political heat, and we have seen the security forces clobbering and, having being high-handed the citizens. And if we enter 2026 with that high-handedness, we are likely to see resistance too from the citizens. We have sounded here an appeal that this should stop, but it is percolating to these security forces very slowly. And if they do not stop and we get ushered in 2026 with this kind of violence that they are unleashing to the citizens, then 2026 we are likely to end elections, and after the elections there will be that kind of clashes between the security forces and the civilians. But we don't want to go there. I know this show is monitored and watched. They should stop and desist from provoking the citizens. Even the language they use. We are seeing some young army officers competing to outcompete each other into giving those kind of statements. Some call themselves the PLU staff. And we need unity. We need unity. We know it all that the contention is between National Resistance Movement, National Unity Platform, Alliance for this part of General Montu, and these other parties which are coming up. And it is upon the leaders within the NRM to keep that NRM unity, because NRM stands for that unity, for patriotism, nationalism, and Pan-Africanism. It's upon NRM leaders, we NRM leaders, to keep propagating that voice, and we avoid this splinter group that is coming up, and it is tending towards extremism. So 2026 we may see that kind of voice of extremism trying to shape a transition into their own wish. But we would want to have a transition which is peaceful. Well, Othieno would say that transition is already now because we are voting. But I've always urged here that anyway, 2026, Museveni is winning. So the transition is from Museveni to Museveni. But after 2026, as you are saying, nature is at call. We are seeing a transition really coming, taking shape. So 2026, the drums of transition will definitely will begin taking shape. So we need to be very careful. We need a national conversation. We need this kind of security forces. We need an intersection point between the security forces and the civilian, and we have the conversation. We don't need to shrink the civic space. If we continue the way we are moving now, the civic space may shrink, and that would be very, very dangerous. Definitely the security forces will be resisted, and that will be chaos. We do not want to see Uganda to take shape of South Sudan or Somalia because of militarization of the governance of the governance of
Civilians.
civilians. Uganda, we have been at peace. When NRA came into power, it was a military outfit that fused with the civilians to make a military civilian kind of administration. And it has been as such that has sustained NRM power till to date. But for anybody to think now that is going to militarize the governance of this country, that is a wrong path that they are taking. And so in 2026, in terms of governance, we need that kind of collaboration between security forces and the military forces. And it is that kind of harmony that will even bring development, sustain our economy, which has a very good outlook. The macro economy have a good outlook because we are seeing these infrastructure developments coming up. We talk about oil. We talk about now coffee. We have now taken over Ethiopia, which means that our green economy is doing well. We are doing well in coffee. We are doing well in cocoa. We are doing well in tea. We are doing well generally. And all this go with peace. So it's my humble opinion and request and appeal that these security forces must stay in their lane. I saw a parliamentary debate just yesterday when Parliament was trying to question why is the military trying to take over the electoral processes. And that is the way to go. There is the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda. It must take the electoral process by its own, not being orders from the security forces. Because if they do that, we are going to have a reincarnation of 1980 elections, whereby Mwanga at that time was having orders from some elsewhere, and we all know the outcomes. So these civilian agencies civilian agencies like Electoral Commission, even the police is more or less, they should be given the opportunity to play their role. So the militarization of the governance of this country need to stop.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sarah, let me come to you. Before Honorable Banyansache came, we were discussing this issue of ethnic tensions, which seem to characterize our politics and has been characterizing our politics for a very long time. How do we best manage these tensions without necessarily ensuring that this country, without seeing that this country actually gets so divided and so polarized that it actually burns down?
Well, I hope with that I can also speak about the transition
Mhm,
question,
mhm, mhm.
because the two are interlinked. When you have a group of people taking power for 40 years, that's 3 generations of leaders. Because in a normal state of affairs, we should have had 10 years of transition from the Bush War, 10 years of President Museveni, then after 20 it should have gone. But now we are counting 40 years. One group of leaders entrenched economic inequalities that you can't fight. Because you have, for example, we still have the entire consensus in cabinet. When you talk about the Minister of Finance, somebody will say, that's Ntare OB or that's Dar es Salaam. So we still have Ntare, Dar es Salaam in cabinet. Yeah, that's huge sums of money going to one individual, one household for 40 years as a minister. Then you have like increase. For example, if you look at Makerere intake, before 1986, you could count the Bahima that were at university. If you go there now and count the Bahima on state scholarships, on private scholarships, because of the economic advantages, they could be more than other tribes, or they are a sizable number. When you go to government business, for example, people who supply the army, if you list them, at least through this Katonga murder, people knew that family was also permanently supplying the army. If you look at people who dominate tenders to the military, you'll find that it's the same group of people. If you go to tenders generally in the government, you find that it's a network. Either it's Ntare, it's Dar es Salaam, it is Ichuruhura, it's a network. So you have money concentrated in the hands of a few people, taxpayers' money. And then you find that the majority of the people, there are those who can't even think of tendering in government. Who do I know? Who do I talk to? Even when they have capacity. But they don't have a network. If you go to parliament, even lunch was made compulsory free because somebody wanted the tender, water free because the people wanted the tender. It's just the same group of people there also. You have been seeing the issue of recruitment at parliament, no adverts, nothing. So this is a situation almost everywhere. So what happens to people outside these networks? So you have entrenched economic inequalities, you have entrenched injustice over the 40 years. Then you go for elections and you have targeted violence. Even the privileged community comes with their sticks into the political arena. The politically privileged community brings their sticks out, cross Karuma and take them to Guru. Do you think Ugandans are happy? I see if we were with Comrade Dauchi, would have told us the happiness index that Uganda that Uganda is doing very well in the happiness index because they track indicators from bars of those people who are drunk. So, so you find that this is the kind of country that we are in. Entrenched inequalities, entrenched injustice, and then collapse of rule of law. If it was only stopping at these disadvantages in opportunities, people could persevere. But you add on targeted violence. We are in Uganda, we are in Kawempe, take their dogs. And people already are coming from this background of inequalities. And they will say, but who is the IGP? Bia. Bia Kagaba. Who is the chairman electoral commission? Bia Bakama. Who is the head of prisons? Bia Bashija. You are looking at a country.
Who's their spokesperson?
I know. The list is endless. So this, then you take dogs. Who is this one taking dogs to Kawempe? Bia Kagaba. Who is this one giving an illegal order? Bia Bakama. Who is this one doing this? Bia. Eh? Yes. Where is the sensitivity of the people in leadership? Entrenched poverty for some. The gap between the rich and the poor is at 0.48 coefficient gene. We have divided the country 50% privileged, 50% unprivileged. And then you add the sticks in Guru, you add dogs in Kawempe, you go broke roads. When they give profile, and they do on social media sometimes, when they give profile of people at heading actions of impunity, it's the same privileged community that we are talking about. So what do you think of other people? And then when they want to gather their vote, and then the people from the same community stay, vote and go home. Even when the law says you can stay. What do you think this community is thinking? And you're asking me tribal tensions. So I think I've answered you. So if I go to the to the issue of the transition, we have three forms of transition that we read finally the political transition. One is the transition in the generation. Going by the 2024 census report, 50% of Ugandans are below 18. That is a transition that you cannot do anything about. Overall, you have 73% of Ugandans as young people. They don't know your bush stories. They don't know who entered Kampala with the torn trousers like my friend Besige. They don't know that. They are looking at the global world, global perspective, Gen Zs, with the way, the speed at which they are moving with technology. That's 73%. You look at the economy outlook. That's the second type of transition. In 1 or 2 years, we should be a petrol country. If the oil comes out of the ground. I know there has been endless transitions of when the oil can come out of the ground. But now we are told 1 year or 2. That's a second transition, the economic transition that will happen. That transition will change a few dynamics as much as we have borrowed heavily on the oil revenue in anticipation. I hope we can control the borrowing appetite so that when the oil revenues finally are out, it's not just mortgaged going into debt servicing and paying loans. So that should create another transition. If Uganda is retaining about 23% of this revenue, 9% can go into government running, and then the other goes into infrastructure development. Still, that will create a transition and a different set of opportunities. The third transition will be finally the political, where we are looking at the president in advanced age. I still believe that the president has no plans of transiting power on his own. I still believe that we still have a life president, a man determined to die in power. I still, so the transition has to be triggered by other people, but not himself. That's my opinion. It has to be triggered by other factors that then these factors will push him to think of exiting power. In the absence of that, we still have a life president that we only goes for election just to claim legitimacy and democratic credentials to be able to borrow money and transact. Otherwise, if it were up to him, even we wouldn't have elections. That's really how I look at the whole conduct of elections. It's just to process a new set of legitimacy. So when you look at that, then you ask yourself, what do Ugandans need to do in order to trigger a transition? So the extreme inequalities and extreme injustice is a push factor for transition. Because these majority disadvantaged Ugandans, if they are determined to vote and protect their vote, then on 15th they will have a clash with the army that is giving illegal orders in connivance with the Electoral Commission. There will be that clash. If they are determined to claim through victory, then you might have a Tanzania scenario on our hands. And we have shared the numbers. The biggest districts, Kamuri, the last time was won by Babu Wine. I think they also have 350 something. So if you look at the voter register, the numbers favor change. The numbers on the voter register map are in favor of change. The demographics, 50% Ugandans below 50 years, 22.7% Ugandans between 18 and 30. Those are about 5 million of the voting population. The Electoral Commission in their final register have said we have 3.5 million new voters. So those are the people who have made 18, 3.5 million. If you add the others who are from 18 to 30, you are likely to go to about 7, 8 million. Then you add the adult population. You look at the dynamics of the average of 40% who don't turn up to vote because of voter apathy and lack of trust and confidence. Then you find that actually, if we are not careful, and if the people exercise impunity, don't hold back, you can have a different result on January 15th. I submit.
Thank you. Charles, again, managing this ethnic tensions that is becoming really, really commonplace, and also managing the transition post 2026, how should the country actually handle this?
Me, Fenista has affected me personally for some time, really.
Where do you come from?
I'm a Ugandan.
And that's sufficient. That's the most important thing. Yes.
We come from Uganda.
In 2011 elections, that time I was voting from Mbarara. Kakoba division. But I didn't go, and I had tasks here to deal with. So, ignorantly, I moved in the night on the election day, and I decided to walk. I was from some meeting somewhere in a hotel, so I decided to walk. It was past midnight to home. At that time, I was.
And your home was nearby.
I was moving from Makere side, going towards Nankurabi. So, of course, on election, me, I didn't know that there was that tension.
You're just innocently moving, heading
Yes,
home.
of course, normally. So, towards after LODC, there's that hostel.
Yeah, for Makere College, I think.
Aga Khan.
Is it Nana?
Ah,
It was
yeah,
being constructed. Guys pick me. Oh, where are you from? I tell them I reside in Kasubi. That time I was staying in Kasubi. Who is your chairman? I didn't know. Give us contacts of your neighbors. I didn't have any.
Which guys? Ordinary?
Yeah.
Citizens.
Civilians. Yeah,
Oh.
some young men. I was beaten from that time up to morning on accusation that I was part of the group that had come from Rwanda to come and vote for Museveni.
No.
Actually, when they released me, it was by God's luck that I didn't die because I was bleeding all over. So in the morning, they gave me water and soap to
Wash up.
wash up. Yes. But after one of them was born again. He convinced them that no, leave the man to go. So I just went to police and we came and picked them. But since then, I've been observing, and that's why I'm
When you
usually.
found they were still there?
Yeah, we picked them. We picked about 20 guys.
Hey.
There were very many Ubeti.
Yes. Actually, I at that time, I communicated direct to General Kaleki. He's the one who gave me the deployment, and we picked them. So, Kayunga riots, the same thing. I was on.
No,
I was on my way from home towards work, and then all of a sudden, somebody tells me, "Look, don't proceed at this point. They are going to kill you."
Oh dear.
So we are locked in a bar for a whole day. These days, when I'm moving, you see there's that resentment towards a particular category of people.
Yes, because
Who
of
are
what
like
you
me.
look like. Yes.
Just last month, I was in a taxi and people started a discussion. Kuruno Mzee again, Museveni is going. So I stubbornly, you know me,
You need to keep quiet.
so I said, where is Museveni going? They turned and looked at me. When they saw me, they said, Mzee, no, we are just joking. You understand? Now, this,
Could have been the other way
for
around.
me, when I see such a process of elections, I get worried of my own survival.
Yeah.
It is not making just a choice, a political choice, but how do I survive? How do I remain alive? And the discrimination is not just by the illiterates or ignorant. No, even well-schooled people.
Elites.
Yes. You talk to professors, you talk to people, but even when they're discussing with you, they are suspicious of your intentions. You understand? So that's how polarized, ethnically we've become as a country, that I may not even be getting any privileges from Museveni as an individual or
Or
his
government.
government, but I could be coerced into supporting him for my own existence. Just like you see the Jews, they have no alternative than to support what Netanyahu does, even though it is so criminal, it is so atrocious that you go on rampage killing other people. But because you have no alternative, you say, now who will guarantee my own survival? This man is still powerful, so I have to keep supporting him. But that said, this is why I always keep appealing to leaders across the political divide. That Uganda, I don't see the reason why our political contestants for president even talk of manifestos. Manifestos to do what? Uganda still needs to be cured fundamentally, to be rebuilt as a nation state before we even talk of anything else. Uganda, any person who calls himself a Ugandan should be proud of his or her country and identify himself as a Ugandan. Before we can even talk of Sijui taking health issues, education issues, those are meaningless. Because there are people who don't see others as Ugandans. There are those who see themselves as the only Ugandans. It is a huge problem. We need a serious leader who can rebuild this country from scratch, rebuild it into a nation state. And that should be his only achievement. Otherwise, we are going to keep in cycles of violence. When you look at research, before a country goes beyond 50 years without violence, don't be sure that it will not revert to violence. So it should have stayed for so many years without violence for stability to be guaranteed. Uganda cannot be taken as a stable country yet because, first of all, the institutions are dysfunctional. Systems are not working. We are largely depending on an individual's goodwill. If that individual went away today, we might collapse as a state and then revert, we become another Somalia in this region. But I've also equally warned, it is not only Uganda. Uganda's problem is for the entire region. If President Museveni today, if his government collapsed suddenly, we might have other 4 governments collapse with him within the region, because he is the guarant of their survival. So they will go with him. It is not only it is not only Uganda's situation. You have a South Sudan, which is depending on him. You have a Rwanda, which is depending on him, because the people fighting, who want to remove Kagame, are being stopped by Museveni. He is the one who cautions them, please don't. You have a DRC, which is in tatters. You have a Burundi, which is not yet on a sure deal. So you look at Tanzania. We thought that Tanzania would never experience what they have just experienced. Kenya, every time they are going to hold elections, they are here to consult with President Museveni. So our situation is for the entire region. But President Museveni has refused to extract himself from all this as an individual and encourage institutional building, encourage establishment of systems so that the citizens of this region can live peacefully forever. Therefore, we need to go back to the drawing board and start national dialogue. Me, these days, I don't trust anybody. I don't.
Even us who are with you.
Because you have somebody pretending to be your friend today. When he sees incidents of, for instance, what has happened to Gul, the following day the person is talking to you in a very funny language. He thinks probably you are part of the group. You understand? So we need to go back to national, to calls for national dialogue. I know President Museveni cannot, for him he thinks once he has won, he has won. So why would he invite a national dialogue? But it is not up to him. It is our survival as citizens. That is why me, when Dr. Sarah said that President Museveni, for the transition, he is looking at the life presidency. That is his mindset. But what is ours now at an individual level? So did Museveni first consult others to go to the bush? I don't think so. If we as Ugandans, we as citizens are seeing something is very wrong, there's something amiss, what is the solution? Let's embark on that road. We don't have to wait for government to call a discussion. People can begin their own discussion and mount pressure on government to join that discussion. The discussions cannot just end here on media. We can organize these discussions and they will start. Nobody will stop them. Because it is the survival of this country, it is the survival of this region that we want.
Thank you. That's quite heavy. Also, I mean, looking at the experiences, those very traumatic experiences that you've had, and it's actually quite scary. And you can only understand the kind of pain that someone goes through only when you put yourself in their shoes. Robert, over to you. Again, this issue of transition and this ethnic differences that we see, we saw a lot of it in the last election campaign season. We are also witnessing it. And it's coming from, people at the grassroots, in the communities. The sentiments, the actual voters are the ones who carry and perpetuate some of these statements and so on. Of course, looking at what Dr. Sarah also mentioned earlier, when you look at the systemic injustices also that are being perpetuated by the state, it's very, very easy for an ordinary average citizen who does not want to think critically into these issues to also look at this as it is these people who are making me suffer without analyzing, other factors that actually contribute to the problems that we have as a society. How do we manage these issues?
Oh, listening to Charles's experience, you really know it's a very serious concern for all of us. When things go wrong, rarely will you be interviewed about where you're coming from, what you do, how much you know or you do not know. We saw this when there was the Kayunga riots and the Mabira demonstrations. I was a roving reporter somewhere in town, and I could fall all through. At Clock Tower, the Asians were being stoned, and the police trying to protect them. People also turned against the police. They had to run away for their lives. The likes of Honorable Rushams had to run away, jump on a board and take off. Literally everyone was scared. Someone in Jakagwa was being run over, and now they survived. And that time, it didn't matter whether you're part of those that were threatening the existence of the forest or not. The same did with the Kayunga riots, which spread like bushfires everywhere. And people would ask you to speak words that didn't merit at the moment. say omufariso, like they would say it, then you say omufarasi, and that was a crime, you know. So I think Charles's experience should really bring us to a level where we need national consensus on peaceful coexistence, harmonious and peaceful coexistence. And this is a message that must be propagated through the actions, not words, yeah? Where we see all of us as equals in the real sense of merit, yeah? Where we must make our institutions stronger for them to work for us than for us to work for the institutions, a person working for the institutions. The institutions must work for all of us. Because where you find institutionalized service delivery, you won't care who is giving you the service because you know it is on merit that people are where they are. Yeah, it's not like in Uganda you get an ono, like I would say, you get an ono. The Salah has helped me out. Gamba no sometimes I'm on the road and the traffic guys stop you. When you pull out your phone and they ask, who do you want me to talk to? The others will say, I won't talk to anyone. You either have a permit or not. Either your tires are worn out or not. I'm not talking to anyone. Because now they have learned that their work is remotely controlled by the other person on the side of the phone who tell you, yes, so and so is my somebody, let them go. So you drag out your phone, even when you want to see if you've missed a call or something, they know that you want to remotely control the service at that point. Where service delivery is incumbent on how you're posturing, how you're looking, and some people will even disrespect you for being in a position where they think you do not merit. I know we lost an opportunity when we had embarked previously on the national dialogue, and I was part of the National Dialogue Coordinating Committee, UNADCOT, which used to meet regularly and had the representation of many government officials, the civil society, the political parties and their secretary generals, and I think all spokespersons, I don't remember, sit there and looked a very good thing. We really had a lot of time discussing critical issues until it dawned to us that we wouldn't go back to, trying to harmonize what went wrong, and that we would stop here, but don't talk elections, because it was kind of tending towards elections, because I think the government feared that would spark off some sentiments from the people. But that was an opportunity that was lost. Over about 100 billion was sunk into that exercise. Very huge amounts of money. So it is until we have such national, dialogues, talking into peaceful coexistence, like we have in our localities. I don't care if my neighbor speaks my language or not. My children will go and play with theirs. They will come to my side and they eat the same food we eat. In our localities there, that's how we live. Somebody will give you a lift to where you're going. The border guy won't ask if you know their language or not.
No.
At the lower level, we are doing that. We really do it, and it works very well. I will seize a piece of my land and sell it to Sarah Birete or Thieno or Banyinzachi, and I won't mind, because it's the highest bidder taking it all. And that's how things are played out. It's all unfair where one uses might to come and grab a chunk of land from seemingly the peasants, who they see do not merit to have it. Maybe they are wasting it up because they're cultivating simple maize and a few things, have 2 goats, and
that's their capacity.
That's their capacity, but somebody will feel this is a misuse of resources, so would want to grab it. Somewhere where you have a small farm in Namayumba, such a person came and wanted to grab another peasant's land. The guy was about 70. Then forced him to sell it to him. Said, no, I'm not selling. Then he grabbed it somehow beyond the boundaries. So guy goes to the police, reports the case. They reported the first time. The second time they were supposed to go back. This guy sends 2 or 3 guys and behead the old man, cut off his private parts, and take them to him. So the police investigates this case. It is a live case known around. Unfortunately, that case collapsed for lack of evidence. And the criminals
Got
I
away
was
with
scot
it.
free.
Mhm.
The police in the area is complaining, but what to do? Possibly somebody influenced them to drop the charges.
And the community tolerated the person.
The community actually took it upon themselves never to see the rich guy again, and he has never
Showed up there.
showed up again.
Okay.
No one should cultivate that land. So it will belong to whoever comes in the names of the old late man, the man who was died,
Just a blood relative
in
or
cold
an
blood,
heir.
who died in cold blood. So that injustice is the one that might breed things that are beyond what we can manage. But where we're at in our schools, our children's best friends don't have to speak the same language, and we're okay with them. We meet as parents, and we're always happy. You know, you call a teacher who teaches your kid, they don't have to come from the same area. They just have to do what is their role in the school.
So where do you identify the problem?
The problem comes from the top.
So
Yeah.
it is failure to manage it at the political, at citizen to citizen interaction level. Things are fine, in your opinion.
I think they're fine. People are buying from one another small retail shop. We don't pass one and buy from another. And this has happened in most of the areas. I don't know if it happens way far out of
Can I get
mind. Yeah?
information? Me, I don't know why, but I think I would disagree with you. Somebody will buy an item from a shop at a particular price. If I go to the same shop, they will sell the same item to me at a higher price.
No, I think we need.
No, if you guys don't mind,
and these
I think- I
stories
think-
are there.
no,
They
I
are
think
there.
what- I
They're
think
very
what Robert
common.
is saying,
Yeah.
that ordinarily,
On the surface.
ordinarily as Ugandans, we are really this fine. And I'll make my contribution to that. But Charles is saying that the reality created by the mess is basically at the heart of what Charles is saying, and that is our risk.
Yes, and that's where I was going.
You know what? Where we are, you drive when you are driving on these roads, the boda, they will be telling you, "Muja kugenda."
Yes.
So at the community level, it is there. You are underplaying it. Muja kugenda.
So in other words, you're saying in
Tubakoye.
circles where you know each other,
Yes.
your ethnicity does not matter. But that becomes different when you go into spaces where people don't know who you are, right? Beyond your community.
Muja
Yeah.
kugenda.
Even in your own
Let me tell you,
community.
even your own friends, they may not tell you the truth. But if they are discussing amongst each other, those sentiments are there.
They start telling
And
you,
it has nothing to
"Mwembuli
do with
muchintu."
education or exposure. The hate is there.
Mwembuli muchintu.
And that's why we need to actually find how to emerge, to emerge from
how I
this
wanted to
mess.
conclude on
Yes,
this,
Robert.
Was that we must focus at the national level now a lot more in how we hand out opportunities and services, on how we place people in key positions, on how we speak about reactions from the grassroots at the national level, how we contextualize harmony and peaceful existence. Because like we all know that the absence of war may not necessarily mean
Peace.
we have peace. Yeah. So it is something that we need to contain so that it doesn't get down to the communities where we live. But up there, it's written all over. It's very evident. You see it, you feel it. You have talked to people who tell you, I sat for an interview. Somebody told me this job is for
So and so.
so and so people from this side.
Yeah.
And how did you even end up here? Yeah. Not that this person has been tested and they are wanting. But from the onset, they think it's a joke and they don't get the job. Yeah, if somebody says such and you get a job, you say maybe they wanted to tease you a bit. So it is at that level where I must be gravely concerned. Who is in which key positions and how do they get there? Is it on merit? If it's merit, nobody cares. I wouldn't mind being in a class and the first, second, and third, leaders in my class in terms of academic excellency are not from my area. I wouldn't mind because I know that, yes, I know they are working hard for it.
They've earned it.
Maybe I need to earn it as well. So I wouldn't complain. I would only complain if, for instance, an interview is due and I'm shortlisted, then automatically I know I'm not getting a job and sentiments come through.
And even the panel interviewing you is
Exactly.
already,
Then you
already
go,
biases you.
then you go in an office, which is supposed to be a national office, and like people will be speaking their local dialects. Yeah, they're not speaking. Maybe they're speaking Uganda all through. I'm giving an example. Of course, that doesn't happen many times, and that is where the problem is. Meaning that a particular public officers have lost focus in terms of sensitivity to where we come from. And that is a huge, huge risk and a time bomb, which we must contend with. Because here at the local level, somebody will sell you something, maybe like Charles says, fairly higher, because they think you have earned some monies. And they're looking for that money. Or because they think you have stolen.
Because of the privilege
Yes.
that Sarah actually talks about. In people's minds, the perception is you come from a privileged group. And yet it's very
You are the
different. Your
thieves.
story is very different. Yeah.
I wanted to just add that as Charles kept talking, you know, sometimes you forget that even in civil society, there's a time there were some divisions and then they started categorizing.
Stongre chava.
Then they categorize and said, those ones. So it's those against these.
Yes.
And then we had one bad element, and unfortunately, he left the sector. So he would go telling all other partners, me, I'm in trouble, but you know, the people who do the same work like me, so and so, they are not in trouble because they have a nyangwe. You find the thing spreading everywhere. Yeah, so this sentiment.
Yeah.
think-
Which we need to confront this more and more, actually. More and more often.
I think the bigger picture is about shared prosperity. If we are going to say that we're a prosperous country and the prosperity is not shared, it will cause problems. And when we talk about the shared prosperity, that is where the issue of meritocracy comes. That is the equal opportunities comes. And so what Kazova was talking about, that the kind of dialogue that we need, and we need institutions which are going to be built based on those principles of shared prosperity.
Thank you. I think we just have like 5 minutes to go. Yes, so we need to actually wind up. A minute for each of you, Joseph. Starting with you, Joseph.
I know it's possibly there's a huge amount to say on this, and I respect that in terms of time. But look, very quickly, I have told this program in a different context that the best experience I ever had outside Padola, obviously away from Busoga, which is my favorite Miri, was actually in Ankole. And that was in 1984, the special treatment by this Munyankole guy in a pickup that treated me as a young Ugandan student whom he knew was not from the area, and a woman with a child. But number two, as we said, this thing is a matter of leadership since we don't have time. And I really want to say quite a lot on this, including the fact that I've got a lived experience. I don't know whether I said it on air, when in one day again, early 1987, I was nearly lynched. Uno Mucholi. Really, 38 years later, there is really, but basically the idea of Uno Mucholi was the same thing, really. Either predominant non-Bantu or those guys with their particular problem at the time. In any case, actually, part of my exile was not because I was UPC, but simply because I was an O, from Makera, and I was saying no to these Endere guys. We need leadership, and the burden of responsibility lies completely with Mr. Museveni. 3, Obote one government, you can call it anything or anybody. The most influential ministers were Baganda. Number 2, Obote's favorite young man in his government, and he told me this personally, is my fantastic OB and revered guy, Ndugurugunda. Obote 2, his favorite boys were Rokasisi, Chirunda, Chirunda, Teungwa, Masete Kuya, and a bit of Utai. And Utai is simply Muteso. The nearest other O in terms of leadership pursuit and Karavakano with the favorite was Olarutu. In that the Chole guy. Granted, our generation, there was an element of an Ochieno guy, we little boys. But the point really is that this leadership thing from the top in terms of nationalism and how you present and offer services. In Bukedi, quickly.
What about the army? How was the configuration of the
The
army?
configuration of the army is historical, we can discuss that. Where the majority of the guys in the army were actually Acholi, but the majority of the officers were actually from the West. Nobody to actually UNLA, and you guys checked researchers go ahead and chase them in terms of senior officers. And then number 2, I think, followed by this. And then I think eventually actually came third. But that was a historical thing in terms of composition, including guys who went to the Liberation War, and the effort done in the 4 years period in terms of recruitment. Had it taken 8 years, it would not be the thing kind of the NRA army, where it took 10 years and the generals were from one sub-county and none was from Uganda, where allegedly the war actually went ahead and took place. I want to conclude quickly because of the time. My Bukedi was one district in Tororo. But in Bukedi, in my P1, my favorite teacher was Lucy Hagege Musami. The other teacher was from West Nile. But recently, in the breakup of Tororo, my Bukedi, I told the elder who passed on from Teso Tororo that the issue for us was Tororo was the second most industrialized town after Jinja. The scramble for Tororo has now been split into sub-counties for districts. It's part of what my colleagues were saying, resources, but also absence of leadership from the top. So no, we need national leaders. Finally, Mr. Museveni, his first job after university, he got it from a fellow Mukedi, Wilson Okwenje, head of economics research in Milton Obote's office. Okwenje told me personally, he had no clue. But he didn't know Museveni. Okwenje did not know Museveni. It was just a graduate thing, picked him up, gave him a job as a research assistant in 1970. That is impossible to happen today. In summary, those really are the kind of things. And finally, what Obote told me again in 2002 was twice when he was president, no close member of his family was allowed to have a bank account abroad. So put the economics, favoritism, these identity questions, it is possible for us to change this because ever since independence, we managed to try to do it. Not necessarily it was perfect, even some of the suggestions make about, not that it was perfect, but it's possible. At the moment, it's a mini time bomb.
Thank you, Joseph. Honorable, your concluding remarks.
Okay, first of all, I'm sorry I came late. My concluding remarks may be 1 or 2 minutes to make up for what I didn't say. But I think my concluding remark is that we are entering into a phase where we have to accept that the youth, those who are who we called children the other day, yesterday, and who we call youth today, they have a very important role to play. And we must accept this. And that is the bracket, the age bracket or the communal bracket that are now called the Bazukuru. And even this what we call the Bazukuru, this is the generation which is the generation which is between 1986 and this 1980s to 2025 plus. So we must enter into this. It is a generation that have been ushered in. Those the intermediate generations seem to be also being swallowed in that generation, like this generation of ours. I don't know whether Sarah belongs into that generation too, but that is the kind of the transition that Sarah was talking about. We must accept that a new generation of leaders have come on board. And if we are to accept that this new generation of leaders is coming on board, there must be tolerance of the fusion of ideas, which is not tribal. And that's what I'm talking about. The shared prosperity should cut across meritocracy should be the theme of the day going fast forward. Shared prosperity in terms of economics, in terms of the economy, in terms of leadership and political wise, and the leadership that we are talking about, as we have been saying, it matters a lot. If we have the right leaders will give the right direction. But if we don't do that and have wrong leaders, we shall be driven in the wrong direction. So as we are ushered in 2026, all these things should be on our mind. And these formations that I see happening, formation around the ethnical sentiments, you hear the sentiments of Westerners, the sentiments of Baganda, sentiments of, we Northerners. And no wonder you are having this kind of the nationalistic kind of thing, and others are being called Bararo. We had the Bafuruchi at one time when there was being the Bachiga were being fought hard in Bunyoro and Toro. And this is something when I was still in parliament and we fought hard to have those derogatory words or configuration. We must fight these so that we know that, and nationally there have been intermarriages. Bachiga marrying Barango, Bachori, Badama, Langiz, Chachoris are marrying Westerners, Baganda. We are having an international kind of configuration. And I think this issue, when I was in the parliament again, we found a constitution which was proclamated in 1995 with the schedule of tribes. And when we were amending the constitution, some of us had a school of thought that we should delete that whole thing of the tribes, of tribalizing. Now you have, that's when the Banyarwanda were fighting to be recognized as a tribe. And I was warning this Banyarwanda, I was resisting it. I said, this is a nationality. This is a nationality of another country. And for them, they think it is good to be there. Now they are paying a price. Because it is very difficult for somebody who has that tag of Banyarwanda to be accepted in the migration for a passport. So that whole schedule of tribes in the constitution, fast forward, we should just scrap it. We don't need it. That's why the Indians are now saying also we need a tribe of Indians. Now we need a tribe of, all that kind of thing. So it's a high time we moved in and have a discussion as Ugandans. And that's why when I was being asked, where do I come from? I'm a Ugandan, And this business of saying, I'm now in Uganda, my children have been born here. Now, who are my children? Who are they? What are they?
Some of them don't even know their own other languages
Nothing.
except Uganda
Yeah.
and English.
Yeah.
Yes,
Actually, they know English. The Uganda, they are using it because
Well,
it is a
yeah,
medium
yeah,
of
yeah.
communication here in this central region.
Okay.
So I think the youth factor we must accept and allow them to play a pivotal role. And this, the other generation, which is like 1% now, that generation which is 80 years plus, should also accept that the young generation have come in and they have the potential to lead this country. But, we need to accept and have this transition to live in harmony and have good governance. And actually, there are other issues that we even did not talk about. Sarah, you are compartment of this transition. There's even this corruption tendencies. We must not have that transition of corrupt leaders entering into this transition. We need to talk about these issues and see how we can manage a country that will serve us all, a government that will serve us all, not to have the few enjoying the privileges because of their economic status.
Thank you. Dr. Sarah Mirete.
If we had set out to respect and implement the Constitution, we wouldn't be having these challenges we are discussing. The Constitution provides for equitable distribution of resources and opportunities to all parts of Uganda. But the people, that happened, I think, in the first term or two terms of President Museveni. That's the only time when there was sensitivity. And even people would say, we must have balance. But now you can have a whole range of departments, like I read, read by Westerners with no sensitivity at all. So you have the police led by Westerner, army led by Westerner, prisons led by Westerner, electoral commission led by Westerner. Zero constitutionalism in that. It violates the national objectives and directives of state policy. It is unconstitutional, and it increases on the problems that we are discussing. So my appeal is to the appointing authority, or whoever will be appointing authority beyond the May 12th next year. We shouldn't see a repeat of these things. They are ugly, the optics are bad, and they are unconstitutional.
Thank you. Charles?
Well, me, I would wish to re-emphasize that we need national dialogue. Our leaders who are looking for positions appear ignorant of what is actually happening within the population. And some of our leaders keep inciting tribal violence. Even on TV, I've seen some. Me, partly, I will tell you, for instance, when I was covering Parliament some years ago, and FDC had just started, there are two senior leaders in FDC who used to express tribalism at personal level. And I disliked those two officials to date.
They were making personal attacks at you?
Targeting a certain ethnic group. It is very bad, and that is why I would wish to appeal to Bobby Wine, Chagulanyi, and Noop to desist from that, because you are going to push away credible support just because of tribal sentiments. When you begin threatening their existence, even if I don't like President Museveni, if you begin threatening my existence, then I'll run back to him. But I also agree with Honorable Banyas. In fact, I've had this idea for some time. I want to try my luck at the East African Parliament. And one of the issues that I wanted to bring to the table was the banning of use of ethnicity on official records. We identify ourselves,
As
for instance,
nationals.
as a Ugandan, but from East Africa. If we want to be Africans, then this is the time to think in that direction. But of course, our politicians still take advantage of.
When you go in
ethnicity.
police and you're making a statement, there's
Tribe,
tribe,
yes.
religion,
Yes.
and you would
And
wonder.
lastly, I wish to challenge Dr. Berete Sarah here. Please spearhead national dialogue. Don't wait for President Museveni. He's not going to call it. As civil society, you can take up the mantle, begin the mobilization. It's a huge task.
What happened to that platform of Justice Ogora?
The Elders
and
Forum?
others? Yes.
Frustrated.
Yes.
It was?
In francophone countries like Gabon, Benin, those sovereign conferences removed the dictatorships. You cannot expect President Museveni to arrange a national dialogue for Uganda. He can't, because you're literally telling him to get out. Mobutu fought it. So take up the mantle, begin the mobilization. You will be surprised. At the end of the day, Ugandans will embrace it.
Begin it.
So, Dr. Sarah here, you should start the process. For us, we shall back you.
Thank you. Thank you. And lastly, Robert.
Yeah,
Why
thank
are
you.
excluding yourself? Be there. Start
He
it.
said you will be a part of it.
Let him start it.
No, he has assigned Dr. Sarah Virete.
They will do what?
They will say that the ideas come from.
Yeah, but I think he has picked on the right person, Dr. Sarah Virete, to spearhead this. And I know she's capable of doing it so well.
Supported by Robert.
Supported by all of us.
So is this the resolution of this forum?
I would be so happy to be a part of the process.
Okay.
I was a part of the National Dialogue Coordinating Committee, frustrated. When one leader of the forum was speaking to us in one of the discussions, because we thought we would handle specific issues that stood out, said, please do not, that will compromise this. It took me, he mentioned so many hours of convincing President Museveni to allow it to take shape.
To allow.
To allow. And said we promised him we would never touch issues A, B, C, D. So here we're not discussing such. And certainly you would see that was now heading nowhere. And no wonder it collapsed. But it's for me the best way forward, a national dialogue where all of us can be a part of, and then agree to live as Ugandans. Certainly we all win. Thank you.
Thank you. 10 seconds, Joseph.
10 seconds is this, that I totally agree with my colleagues that national dialogue is real and it's the only credible, real alternative. Okay. As I told you guys that I left as a victim merely of identity, I came here, one of my big thing was officially asking for a National Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's all linked to this, that's important that we do so. But quickly, regardless of whatever happens, I voted as a young 18-year-old. I looked at the figures on the National Population Census and everything else. It is actually possible that 18 to 30-year-olds, can turn around this election. My little brother, Barack Obama, said in those rallies, don't boo, don't boo, but vote. So really, really, you guys do not boo, do not whatever, do not lament, do not fear, vote. Let's vote and see what they do with your votes.
Thank you.
Put it on record that here, us seated here, have made a declaration to spare here. They have made a declaration for a national
The
dialogue,
committee of 6.
and this national dialogue will be spearheaded by Dr. Sarah Birete, and
The rest will support.
the rest of us.
Let the citizens support.
Yeah, citizens chat show or citizens space.
So
All right.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much to all of you. I do appreciate your
Results.
insights.
Yeah.
Mr. Robert Sempala, Mr. Charles Kazoba, Dr. Sarah Birete, Honorable Henry Banyanzachi, and you, Mr. Joseph Ocheno. Thank you very much for your insights and perspectives on this very important conversation as we count down to the 2026 elections when Uganda will be deciding. We've been discussing the projections, possibilities, and the road to 2026. My name is Judith Atim. I'm your host. It's been a pleasure having you join us on this conversation. Drop us a comment in the comment section. And we certainly wish you happy festive season. And continue watching the Citizens Chat Show. We will return next week with another conversation that is important for our public discourse and for shaping our democratic space. From all of us here in the studio, it is a happy festive season. Bye-bye. See you next time.